Welcome to the Total Woman Show, and I hope that you're having a great day. Well, we've got a show for you today that is dynamite, but I want to introduce my co-hosts, Fatima El-Swifi, Coach Allison, Jody Tucker, and Kathleen Ronald. We are here today to talk about something very important. I'm telling you, it is important, so don't call your boyfriend, don't call your husband in. This is something you need to see. No, man, I'm just teasing. But anyway, we're going to talk about how to walk away from an unhealthy relationship. You know, how many of us know that some of us, we really need to bury some relationships? You know, I've heard someone say we need funerals for more than just people. We need to have funerals for some relationships, and you know, we have some so-called friends, and then sometimes, and so we're not just talking about boyfriends or girlfriends. We're talking about, it could be relationships with a mom, a dad, it could be with an aunt, it could be relatives, it could be anybody. So you can get a very strong indication whether or not you're in celebrating a really great relationship. And you can really just ask some simple questions. And that simple question simply is this: is this person bringing or helping propel you towards God-prepared future for you? I like to say it this way, and I ask many women and men: is this person adding value to your life? If so, how? Oh, or is this person doing something to lift you up? Because you know what? There are signs well ahead of us in terms of a relationship that is not that great. But it isn't to say that always we're talking about a man, because it could be a female relationship. All people who come into your life for a reason and a season. So I today want to explore relationships that are full of all sorts of interactions, all sorts of headaches and hurts and setbacks, and sometimes even danger. But you need to bury it. So today we're going to talk about that. My friends, weigh in on the relationships, because I know we all are in some or have been in some relationships. Now, fortunate for me, I was in one for 37 years with a wonderful man. That was just the man-woman relationship. And unfortunately, my husband died 6 months ago. But I tell you, I have a wonderful relationship with him. But maybe not such a good relationship with my brothers or sisters, and that's another thought. But anyway, you know, because there are differences in the relationship. So I want people to understand, we're not just talking about male-female relationships. Right. Let's look at it as a whole.
I think with relationships, you have to be intentional, and it should be your choice. I feel like we, as children, we just have relationships, our cousins, our siblings, and we don't choose. And I think you get to a point in your life where it's like, I want to choose my relationships, and you have to do an inventory about who's in your life and why they're in your life. I think you have to kind of know that for every person in your life. And even if they're not serving that much value to you, but you're doing most of the value or serving them more, you have to know that so that your expectation could match where they fit in your life.
Mm-hmm. But do you think, Fatima, that when we talk about relationships, that it starts maybe at home? It starts, because our first exposure to any kind of relationships are with mom and dad, sisters and brothers. Mm-hmm. That's where it all starts. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we formulate our values, we formulate a lot of, our views and feelings towards life and about relationships. And so if you've not seen a good relationship between mom and dad, how do we expect to have a good relationship between, when you get married or, that kind of, because we haven't seen a good model. And so today, the reason why I like this topic is because we don't see very good models of good relationships, do we?
No, we don't. They're hard to find.
Yeah.
They're very hard to find.
Yeah. And so what are some of the ingredients of a good relationship?
I think, I'm always single, so I don't have advice.
But beyond, beyond a love relationship, you have many.
I have many friendships and many encounters and all that stuff. But I do think that's a good point. You have to look at like what you grew up seeing. I didn't see a male role model, a male father figure, and I didn't see how a relationship should look. So for me right now, it's like this fantasy thing of a perfect situation because I've never seen one, so there's nothing really for me to model. But I think sharing and learning from others is a big way to kind of like start figuring out what do I need in my life and what do I really want in a partner.
But what happens when we talk about relationships you didn't have really a role model to really see in terms of good relationship. But what happens when all of a sudden, we're talking about how to walk away from a unhealthy relationship. What happens and all of a sudden you find yourself in a relationship that's not healthy? It's not adding value.
Well, and you make a really good point about relationships adding value. But being in a relationship for the sake of filling a hole in your life isn't necessarily the right reason to be involved with someone, whether it's a friendship or it's a romantic interest. Fatima, I would tell you that, right? Don't look for them to fill a hole. Even in your friendships. I mean, there are some people that I know that when I get around them, it's a soul-sucking experience. You just know that it's not a back and forth. They're adding to me and I'm adding to them, and I give a little, they give a little, and here we go. There's some balance here. It's like they just suck everything and then they're done. And to me, those are some of the when you feel exhausted after you've been with somebody. You're done. Like that's not a relationship you should continue to be in. The problem is that when you stayed there and you've said yes to that for an extended period of time, coming to that realization of this isn't healthy for me can mean a shift in every area of your life. If you've had a long-term friendship that you've decided you're going to walk away from, a long-term marriage you decided that you need to walk away from, it shifts everything around you. And I think that walking away from an unhealthy relationship takes a lot of courage to be able to say, I choose not to
be in this relationship.
Yes, and to be defined in this way. This isn't a good thing for me. And that comes with, I think, a lot of commentary from other people, the peanut gallery, what you should do, who you should be, what you should be with, and how it should look.
And then you just should all over yourself.
There's no easy way to walk away from a healthy. It make it sound easy to walk away from an unhealthy relationship. No, it's sometimes you crawl a little bit before you can get up and walk.
That's true.
But it takes a lot of courage to be able to say this isn't healthy for me anymore.
Right. See, sorry. Well, for me, in my personal relationships, I have always known exactly what I was looking for. And it doesn't matter if it was dating or just friends or whatever. And if it didn't fit my, I guess, categories, I was perfectly fine going without it. And if it meant if it meant having to choose between being with somebody or being in a relationship that I didn't enjoy and being by myself, I would have no problem choosing to be by myself. And in professional relationships, though, that was harder because you can't just walk away with that.
No,
right? And
that's right.
Especially in corporate
America.
America.
It costs something for you to walk away from
exactly.
it.
And in our previous episodes, we have talked about competition and forgiveness, and all those things played a part because I would have been fine working alone or being alone, but at the same time, when you're in a work setting, you're not alone.
That's different.
It's a teamwork. And so that was always harder. And it took a lot of courage it really tested my character, I guess, in many ways, to know that what I wanted from that relationship would be exactly what I got out of it, and it wasn't something that other people could dare to even try to manipulate, but for me to just get out of it what I could, and that just leave it at that. And it didn't have to be the ideal type that I wanted, but you can't always just pick those things when you're at work.
Right.
And so, but still, I mean, had I had the option of actually choosing what I wanted, I would have been perfectly fine just by myself. I mean, that would have been the better choice for me, the healthier one.
You can, when I think about relationships too, it doesn't necessarily just mean relationships, partner relationships, professional relationships. It also gets into spiritual relationships, church partnerships, relationships. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. I've had to walk away from a church because it just wasn't right. It wasn't the right relationship for me. I mean, because that too in itself is
That's
a
right.
relationship,
Yeah.
is it not?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to
Absolutely.
throw that out there.
What about
That-
relationship with yourself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And it's,
Yeah. I mean,
know,
not
that's a big
walking,
one.
well, walking away, walking away
hard
from
one.
self. Oh.
I
No,
always
but you just have to shift that gear a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't walk away from yourself. That is why you want to make sure that it's a good one. That
Yeah.
relationship is
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah.
You know.
I always
Well,
tell
so-
people, if you want to see where you're at with your self-esteem, look who's next to you. See who you're with.
Yeah.
And whatever you don't like about them, you better heal that within yourself, or you're just going to bring in
Well,
the
tell us,
next one.
Kathleen,
Yeah.
where you've had a relationship that you had to walk away from.
I think, in retrospect, I found that I wasn't able to speak my truth, and that I had an old model where I would placate and avoid, or I'm a Libra, I like peace in all things. So rather than speaking my truth or finding my voice, what I did is just separate myself. You know, I just disappear. So I wouldn't confront you. I wouldn't tell you you've hurt my. I told one friend. I said, "Isn't it odd that in 8 years I've never had an issue with you, ever? I just couldn't tell you that you hurt. I didn't have the words or even how to tell you that you hurt my feelings."
So when you say speak your truth, you're not able to express yourself to this person, your feelings. Is that what you're
Right,
talking
at
about?
the time.
Not
Yeah, I
able to
wasn't
express
able to.
your feelings,
Yeah.
how you felt.
I grew up in a family that it was one way or the highway, and you didn't have an opinion, right? Children are to be seen and not heard. And so I didn't have a situation to be able to have an honest conversation. Now I do. You know, I tell people, please, if for any reason you have something to say, be honest with me. I love and embrace radical honesty. I have some friends, I always know where I stand because I know they'll speak to me
Right.
and not around me. You know, gossip, I think, is a terrible thing, but it's challenging, and I think it's a skill. I think, and I've studied a little bit of radical honesty, but just to share how you feel is a license that everyone should have.
Fatima is the youngest co-host on our team today, and I just want to give a shout out for the young folks and out there, and thank you so much for sharing with us your views and viewpoints, because you bring a great perspective of what's happening out there in the world today as it relates to your age group. Because we're all seasoned, we're not that seasoned. Some of us are more seasoned than others, but we're a little seasoned. But weigh in on relationships in general in terms of walking away from an unhealthy relationship.
Like I said, I'm always single.
But you had to walk away from a few.
Yes.
I mean, you're
so-
drop dead gorgeous, so don't tell me that you haven't had to walk away from a few. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like my biggest thing is knowing why you're in a relationship, or like I said, I'm never in a relationship, but I did date a lot. I would go on dates and get to know different guys and see what I liked, and I think that's big on relationships. A lot of times people just get in relationships out of loneliness and all that. So
For all the wrong reasons.
for all the wrong reasons, and it's not only bad for yourself to put yourself in those situations, but it's unfair to the other person. So you can't lead people on out of loneliness or any of that. Like, you have to be clear about your motives and your intentions and what you want. And so I've dated guys where I would kind of let it just go on out of loneliness and just enjoying their company, but it wasn't necessarily healthy for me.
Right.
And it wasn't growing me. And it was even having me compromise my values at times, or compromising things that I care about. So I feel like the way to get away from that is to communicate with yourself first. Don't just do it out of fear, or really know why you're leaving the situation, and learn. And I think it's a great time to practice communication and putting that energy out there that you know what you want, you know? So I think the best way to kind of remove yourself from, I mean, it's easier said than done, just to remove yourself from it. Like, there is no easy answer. You can't prolong it, because that should just put you in this cycle that you can't get out of. So just remove yourself.
Well, you know, one
Like,
There's the fading
Yeah.
technique too. You just fade out,
you just kind of
depending on how important they are to you. You know, I think every relationship has its own meaning, and some you're not so deep into it, so you can kind of fade away or give it distance, and without confronting or being direct, you just
Well, one of the things I've found, and I just want to interject this, in other cultures in traveling that I have, and they're in unhealthy relationships, unhealthy marriages, unhealthy relationships with significant others, and the rationale for not leaving is that the fear of
the unknown.
censure from family,
Yeah,
censure
that's a really
from
good point.
from friends, and well, he's a nice guy or she's a nice gal. What do you mean? You know, because in other cultures, relationships are important, but family, you know, get married, you know.
I've only been married
you
for
know,
a year. I can't
and
leave him
so
now.
it's like, and that fear of being ostracized.
Yeah.
Because in Kenya,
Yeah.
I mean, it takes 3 years to get a divorce. And even when you do, you better be self-sufficient to be able to take care of yourself, and if you have children. So a lot of women don't walk out of unhealthy relationships just like we got snap, pap, okay, it's not working, bye, I'm gone. That does not happen. It doesn't happen in India. It doesn't happen in a lot of the cultures. So the thing that I'm trying, we may have not be able to walk away, but what are some of the things that you can do if you're in an unhealthy relationship, ladies? I become the expert. No, I'm just teasing. No, I'm just teasing. I
just want to focus, how can I get better? You know, I would try to not to make it about them, would be the goal. I'm not saying that's easy, but if it's not about them, then I'm going to look to me, like what part of me needs to be healed if I'm in that relationship.
It might not be safe. Well, we were talking about contexts where it might not
Yes,
be
there's
not
lots
just possible, but not even safe to walk away from. Financially safe, emotionally safe, physically safe,
Right.
for you to
Just
say,
walk away.
yeah, to say I'm vacating this relationship
Right.
and I'm leaving it.
Right.
I think that it you know, in those circumstances, being very aware of who you are, and if you've been in a position where you've either had to say yes or chosen to say yes to something that ends up not being healthy for you, and then you cannot easily remove yourself from that situation, when you're there, understanding who you are in terms of your identity might be the only way to retain any kind of sense of sanity and safety in the context of I cannot leave. So if I cannot leave for whatever reason, and there are those real situations
There really
where
are.
leaving is not okay, leaving is not allowed, and it's not even possible. And if that's the case, then finding a way to create an identity for yourself that empowers you regardless of circumstance is what, to me, is the fundamental piece
Right,
of
and that's
being
exactly-
okay in
With
the
it.
context that you're forced to survive in. You know, finding the things that bring you joy, the things that you can say, this is me, because the real problem with I can't leave, it's not safe and okay for me to go, is a loss of self. It's a loss of identity.
Right.
If you can find a way to retain, I know who I am. I know who I am. This isn't me. I know who I am. Is a way to survive an unhealthy circumstance like that.
Now, one of the tips that I'm giving to the listeners out there and the viewers is that look in that mirror and say to yourself the affirmations. I'm healthy, I'm whole, I am complete. I'm healthy, I'm whole, I'm complete. I have peace. And you may have to get in that bathroom and do it many, many times until you really intake that in your spirit. If this is that you cannot leave, you cannot get out of that situation, you have to find peace within yourself that you can be able. And when you have that aura of peace, it is reflective and deflective. Believe me, because you start to walk in a light. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
You guys are all looking at me.
Yeah.
No, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
you start, as you get into that zone and you get into that peace, finding that core Because yes, there are women who can't, and maybe men, that can't leave. And I know many of them in these different countries. But it's finding you, finding the peace that's within you, walking in the light no matter what. And I'm telling you, the light deflects darkness. And you will find that darkness won't even want to be around you because you're reflecting so much light. But when you start intaking the darkness and the bitterness and letting that be in you, your countenance gets dark, your countenance is angry. The kids can see mom's, angry. Now, I'm not talking about violence and abusive situations where you're being physically abused, but there are emotional abusers. Or it may be just unhealthy marriage because he's running out, he's drinking, he's coming home. I had one lady tell me, he came home and he peed in the fire pot.
Or she's running out, she's drinking,
and,
she's doing.
No, I don't hear that too much in some of the countries I'm talking about. But I'm saying that basically find your peace. Jody.
I think I think sometimes those unhealthy relationships, when you start to define what it means to be healthy, first of all, you have to have a definition of, this to me is a definition of a healthy relationship, therefore these are the things I'm looking for. And then you look at the people in your life, it can be very, very disillusioning to come to the realization that some of the relationships that you are maybe even feeling obligated to maintain aren't ones that you should be maintaining. Right. And I'm talking about not just husband and wife relationship, but adult sibling relationships is another context where, this is not a healthy place for me to be, and so this person I need to stop having a relationship with. And all of the guilt and all of the expectation that comes with, but aren't we supposed to? I mean, I grew up in a context where family is very important. I'm the oldest of 4 girls. What if I finally discover, in taking inventory of what's healthy for me, that my relationships with my siblings are not healthy? Then what? And sometimes that requires that you have to stop maintaining that level of relationship and maybe ask it to be something else, or stop it all and stop having a relationship altogether. Yeah, and to be okay. I had to get okay with the idea of there might be an expectation, whether it's society or my parents or whoever, that I maintain that.
Right.
Shouldn't you do that? But maintaining a relationship out of obligation isn't healthy.
No, it's not.
Even if it is one of those ones where you find yourself startled that I need to say no to this. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm in my 40s. I'm going to say no to, I'm walk away from a 40-year-old relationship. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If it isn't going to be a healthy situation, then yes, that can be really gut-wrenching.
Oh, absolutely.
And some of the things that I hear from women, and I'm sure you do, those of you who are coaches, how do I get away from my family? I mean, because my family is toxic. Every time, or my in-laws. My God, we got to go visit the in-laws. Every Sunday, my husband says, we got to go visit the in-laws. And oh my God, I got to listen.
Obligation. Obligation.
Oh my God, I'm there. I'm thinking, dear God, help me.
Yes.
I mean, I hear that. That's not happened to me personally, but I hear these stories. And they're saying, what do I do? Because you're telling me, Dr. B, you always talk about avoid toxic, negative people. I just put it in a general sense. But you can't avoid, the Aunt Susie, you got to go to her house, or, or the in-laws, you got to be with them. And be with the whole family. You got to sit there and smile and grin, and you go, oh my God, and so how managing that those are unhealthy relationships.
Yeah,
but you're tied into it.
Yeah.
That's family. That's husband's family, or that's wife's
and
family.
That's stressful to kind of come to that realization. Oh no, I gotta get in that room.
Every Thanksgiving we gotta be there. Every Christmas we're there. July. My husband has a fit if I talk about let's do something else. So,
I mean, there has to come up. You have to get to a point where how important are those comments? How important are their thoughts and opinions?
Oh, that's a good point.
How important are they? Are they really that important to ruin your day, ruin your holiday?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
so it's finding peace within yourself, as you said.
Again, it's finding that peace within yourself, and being able to accept them as they are.
Yes.
And enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
So walking away doesn't mean cutting them out of your life.
No,
It
absolutely
can
not.
mean saying, I refuse to let that dynamic speak into me.
Right.
And
maybe a little
detachment.
Detachment. That's a good way to think about it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I had a situation growing up, and I used to go to my auntie's and I'd get a full body rash and I thought I was allergic to something,
Oh.
but it was a neural emotional reaction.
Oh, you were so stressed out.
I was so
Oh my
stressed
gosh.
out. And what I found, though, was fascinating. All those years that we're avoiding, right, at any family function, as soon as I met her mother,
You understood?
I understood her. I went, oh, I so get you. And then all of a sudden, she became my favorite aunt because I was able to understand why she was, to your point, if you can understand the other person's view, why she was the way she was. And as soon as that, everything fell away. It was like the most beautiful relationship. I love her so much. But, for years, it was like,
Yeah.
just the thought of being there would give me a body rash. And so it's fascinating, that can shift too.
You know why I'm smiling? Because I've heard guys say, if you want to know what your wife's going to look like in 20 years, go meet her mother. It's
But I thought she was bad. I met her mother, and I thought, no wonder. No wonder, you poor soul. I'd be like that too.
so anyway.
I have a question with what you guys said. So if you are detaching yourself from your family, couldn't over time that turn into like resentment or something?
Ooh, that's a good one. If you do that without like on our previous episode, without forgiveness, if you do that without letting go of those expectations and that role or box that you were in that context, yes, resentment's coming at you. But if you can let go and say, not only am I saying no to this unhealthy thing between us, but I'm saying no to that definition of myself. Then suddenly it fits with the transformation. The whole idea of saying no to an unhealthy relationship gives you an opportunity to start a healthy one.
Yeah.
With a different perspective, with
right.
detachment, with some kind of a different understanding of what it means to be with them.
You change your paradigm. I always use that.
Yeah,
You
it's a
change your
shift.
paradigm.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
make that shift.
And you're not blocking them off. You're
No.
just seeing them. Your perspective
Right,
has
changes,
changed.
right.
Yeah.
And then, it's like, again, the choices you choose to love. So
Yeah, love.
when you walk away from an unhealthy relationship, there are many, many ways, and we've talked about that today, that you can do that. But I think one of the most profound things that was said today, no matter what those relationships may be, you still are in charge, and that you can find that peace within yourself. You can change your paradigm so that you can change that relationship, but you can distance yourself, but you can still love. And I think love yourself no matter what. And so we want to thank you for listening to the show today. This has been a great time of sharing and caring, and I want to thank you guys again. You are
Thank
wonderful.
you.
You've just
Thank
been
you.
great. And I know that you women out there and men, you've learned something today, or I trust that you have. If you have any questions, comments, and you want to write us and just say hello to us, we'd appreciate it very much. And you can call me or actually write me at Dr. B at transformationsuccesstv.com. Again, that's Dr. B at transformationsuccesstv.com. And thank you so much, and I look forward to having you tune in next week, because we're going to have another great show for you. Can't wait. Have a blessed week.